The Egyptian president reaffirms Egypt's unwavering support for Sudan's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. Netanyahu says Israel intends to fully control Gaza but does not want to govern or keep it. Israeli airstrikes on their Syrian southern Lebanon kills 1 Syrian, injures 2. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering support for Sudan's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, emphasizing full backing for all efforts aimed at achieving security, stability, and ending the current humanitarian crisis. That came as the Egyptian president received Sudan's transitional Prime Minister Kamel Idris to discuss the evolving strategic partnership between Egypt and Sudan. The meeting focused on strengthening cooperation across various sectors to help restore stability in Sudan and fulfill the aspiration of both peoples for development and prosperity. They also explored ways to collaborate on Sudan's reconstruction and exchanged perspectives on regional developments, underscoring the importance of ongoing coordination and consultation on issues of mutual concerns. Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has reaffirmed the profound and enduring ties between Egypt and Sudan, expressing a commitment to elevate their relationship to new heights. In a joint press conference with his Sudanese counterpart, Madbouli highlighted Egypt's unwavering support for Sudanese citizens during the ongoing crisis and voiced hope for Sudan's swift recovery. The Egyptian Prime Minister emphasized Egypt's dedication to Sudan's stability, recognizing its significance for peace and security across Africa. He also confirmed Egypt's active participation in Sudan's reconstruction efforts and stressed the importance of coordinated action on regional issues. Furthermore, Madbouli called on enhanced cooperation among Nile Basin countries without harm and firmly rejected Ethiopia's unilateral actions, underscoring the necessity of adhering to international law. On his part, Sudan's Prime Minister Kamel Idris has expressed deep appreciation for Egypt's historic support towards Sudan. In a joint press conference with Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, the two of them agreed on a comprehensive vision prioritizing the mutual interests of their countries. That comes at Egypt reaffirms its full backing of Sudan's government and efforts to safeguard its national institutions. Egypt and Sudan firmly rejected any threats to Sudan's unity and territorial integrity. Additionally, Egypt and Sudan jointly condemned Ethiopia's unilateral actions on the Nile Basin, emphasizing the importance of collaboration. The two prime ministers underscored the critical need for coordinated efforts on regional security matters, particularly concerning the Red Sea area, highlighting their shared commitment to stability and cooperation in the region.
والله العظيم ولا حبة رز، والله العظيم ولا حبة عدس. ما فيش أكل، ما فيش شرب، عندي بنت 2.5 صارت تشطب.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared Israel's intention to fully control Gaza, but emphasized they do not seek to govern or retain it. He outlined plans to remove Hamas from power and transfer Gaza's administration to a civilian authority. while asserting that Israel does not aim to permanently govern Gaza. He added, "We want a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it." Israeli military chief of staff Eyal Zamir has announced the conclusion of Operation Gidon Chariots in Gaza, while openly addressed his disagreement with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Speaking at the Israeli General Staff Forum, Zamir emphasized that internal debate is essential to the Israeli military's culture and vowed to continue expressing their views professionally and independently, prioritizing national security. He claimed the operation achieved its objectives and highlighted Israel's ability to establish new security boundaries. Reports reveal government division over the full Gaza occupation plan, with Zamir cautioning against prolonged military entanglements and risks to detainees. An Israeli airstrike has targeted an UNRWA-run clinic turned shelter in Sheikh Radwan in northern Gaza, worsening the plight of displaced Palestinians by leaving hundreds homeless. Despite prior warnings to evacuate, the shelter was heavily bombed overnight. Palestinians expressed outrage, lamenting the loss of vital medical services and safe refuge. Displaced residents highlighted the destruction's devastating impact on access to medicine, shelter, food, and water. Witnesses described the site as completely demolished by powerful explosives, deepening the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. At least 98 Palestinians, including 51 aid seekers, were killed and 603 injured in Israeli attacks across Gaza in the past 24 hours. Since October 7th, 2023, Israel's war on Gaza has killed a total of 61,258 Palestinians and injured 152,045. Among the dead are 4 people who starved to death, raising the hunger-related death toll to 197, including 96 children. 2 bodies were also recovered from rubble from previous attacks. The number of aid seekers killed since May 27th, when Israel introduced a new aid distribution system through the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Fund, has reached 1,706, with over 12,030 injured. British Ambassador to Israel Simon Walters has warned that a full-scale occupation of Gaza would be a huge mistake, as Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly considers approving such a move. Walters said the Israeli military has done all that it can do in Gaza, and prolonging the war would only cause more deaths of soldiers, Palestinians, and possibly detainees. He stressed that removing Hamas would require politics and diplomacy, and urged the creation of an alternative authority for Gazans in the post-war period. Gaza's government media office has reported that just 92 aid trucks entered the enclave on Wednesday, far below the 500 to 600 trucks the UN says are needed daily to meet basic needs. The office said only 14% of the required aid has entered, blaming Israel for blocking about 6,600 trucks and restricting humanitarian access. It also claimed that most aid failed to reach recipients due to looting and robbery caused by what it described as deliberate security chaos by Israel. The office held Israel and its allies fully responsible for the humanitarian catastrophe. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, has warned that hunger is now claiming lives in Gaza, urging unrestricted access to deliver aid. 5 months on, hunger is the latest killer, the agency said on X, noting that before the siege, UN and partners supported 2 million people through community-based aid. UNRWA criticized Israel's continued blockade and the reliance on militarized aid via the controversial GHF mechanism backed by Israel and US. Over 1,300 people have reportedly been killed while trying to access aid at GHF-run sites since May. World Health Organization, the WHO, has warned more than 14,800 patients in Gaza remains in urgent need for specialized medical treatment. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus urged more countries to accept patients and called for medical evacuations to be expedited through all available routes. The appeal came as WHO facilitated the evacuation of 15 critically ill children from Gaza to Jordan, accompanied by 42 caregivers. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has emphasized that while addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is important, it should not overshadow the dire situation of Israeli detainees held by Hamas. He highlighted that 20 Israelis are currently being held detainees facing life-threatening conditions. Rubio stressed the need to disarm and dismantle Hamas, warning that lasting peace in the region is impossible as long as the armed group remains active in Gaza. Human Rights Watch, the HRW, has condemned Israeli attacks on over 500 school buildings in Gaza, many of which were serving as shelters for displaced civilians during the opening conflict. In a recent report, HRW detailed 2 specific strikes, one on the Khadija girls' school in Deir el-Balah on July 27th last year, which killed at least 15 people, and another on the Zaytun C school in Gaza City on September 21st, killing 34. The rights group found no evidence of military targets or either sites, labeling the attack as unlawfully indiscriminate.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
And to Lebanon, the Lebanese Ministry of Health announced that a Syrian national was killed and 2 others were injured in Israeli airstrikes targeting the town of Deir Syrian in Nabatiya Governorate, southern Lebanon. In an updated statement, the ministry said that the Israeli attack on Deir Syrian, located in Marja'iyun district, resulted in the death of 1 Syrian citizen and left 2 individuals wounded. UNIFIL has announced the discovery of an extensive network of fortified tunnels in the vicinity of the towns of Tayr, Harfa, Zabqin, and Naqoura in southern Lebanon. According to the statement, UNIFIL forces uncovered several hideouts, artillery pieces, and multiple rocket launchers, in addition to hundreds of shells, rockets, anti-tank mines, and improvised explosive devices. Lebanese Foreign Minister Youssef Raji affirmed that government's decision to ensure that all weapons remain exclusively under state control is final and irreversible. In a post on X, Raji stated that the government's historic move to enforce state monopoly over arms before the end of the year was primarily in response to the aspirations of the Lebanese people. He added, "To the Lebanese people and to the Arab and international communities, we say clearly, this decision is final and there is no turning back." After meeting with the Lebanese president, U.S. Congressman Darrell Issa has highlighted the prolonged suffering of the Lebanese people due to the absence of a functioning government. Speaking from Beirut, Issa stressed the urgent need for Lebanon's army to assert full control over the country's territory to restore stability and security. His remarks underscore the critical challenges Lebanon faces in governance and sovereignty, emphasizing that only through a strong military presence can national order be re-established and the nation's hardships alleviated.
Lebanon's ability to build the Lebanese armed forces and
Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara has received Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan in his delegation in Damascus alongside Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shibani. They discussed regional and global developments, bilateral cooperation, and pressing issues including tensions between Syria and Israel. Turkey pledged support for Syria's reconstruction, military training, and international backing. Talks also focused on Turkey's security concerns in northeast Syria, counter-terrorism cooperation, and preserving Syria's unity and territorial integrity amid ongoing regional instability. Syria has signed investment memoranda of understanding with several international companies in Damascus involving strategic projects with a total value of $14 billion. The agreements include a $4 billion deal with Qatar's Orbakoun Holding to build a new airport in Damascus and a $2 billion deal with the United Arab Emirates National Investment Corporation to construct a metro system in the Syrian capital. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced the successful evacuation of 83 Jordanians and their companions from the Syrian province of Suwayda through the Nasib Jabir border crossing in coordination with the relevant Syrian authorities. Ambassador Dr. Sufyan Al-Qada, the ministry's official spokesperson, explained that the evacuation was carried out using buses operated by the Syrian Arab Red Crescent. He emphasized that the effort is part of the ministry's ongoing coordination with national institutions to ensure the safety of Jordanian citizens and their return home.
We're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death.
And to Iran, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that an upcoming visit by the IAEA's Deputy Director General to Tehran is aimed at discussing cooperation frameworks, not conducting inspections or assessments. Araghchi emphasized that the visit aligns with Iranian parliamentary law and pertains solely to Iran's peaceful nuclear program. Addressing speculation about possible negotiations with the U.S., Araghchi said no meetings have been finalized, though indirect communication continues. He added that future talks depend entirely on Iran's national interests. The IAEA has called for resumed inspections following Israeli and US strikes targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran maintains its program is peaceful and denies pursuing nuclear weapons. Iranian Chief of Staff Major General Abdurrahim Mousavi affirmed that Iran possesses the capability to respond to Israeli aggression and does once. Mousavi stated that the Iranian people will never forget the wounds caused by American crimes and they will seek revenge against both Washington and Tel Aviv, even if only one person from this generation remains. Americans will not be safe from his vengeance, he warned. He added that Israel's objective is to drag Iran into chaos and war, but what the world witnessed during the recent assault proved that Iran cannot be defeated. US President Donald Trump announced that the United States may launch new strikes against Iran if Tehran attempts to resume its nuclear program. Trump stated that the US has ended wars in the Middle East by preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear programs. He added that any attempt by Iran to revive its nuclear program would be a very dangerous step for them because we will come back. He stressed that everyone understands the consequences tied to such a move. Russia has announced that a summit between President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump could take place as early as next week, with preparations currently underway. Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev shared the update on X, describing the potential meeting as historic and emphasizing the importance of dialogue. If held, it would be the first official summit between the two leaders since the start of the war, or rather the start war erupted in 2022, a turning point that deeply strained ties between Moscow and Washington. The last US-Russia presidential summit took place in 2021 when Putin met then President Joe Biden in Geneva. Kirill Dmitriev, CEO of Russian Direct Investment Fund, has said a planned meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump next week could be a turning point for US-Russia relations. He stressed the value of direct dialogue, saying it helps counter misinformation and allows Russia to present its economic resilience. Dmitriev also pointed to potential US-Russia cooperation in the architect, rare earths, infrastructure and tech. He claimed US firms lost over $300 billion by leaving Russia and said many are now eager to return, hoping renewed dialogue will bring mutual economic benefits. Russian President Vladimir Putin has highlighted the necessity of consultations with the United Arab Emirates on international security matters. During talks at the Kremlin, Putin and his Emirati counterpart exchanged views on regional developments, emphasizing the importance of dialogue. The Russian president expressed significant attention to the bilateral relationship, noting remarkable growth in trade and investment ties between Russia and the United Arab Emirates. The discussion underscored the strategic partnership and ongoing collaboration aimed at strengthening economic and security cooperation between the two nations. United Arab Emirates President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has highlighted the rapid advancement of Emirati-Russian relations in recent years. Speaking from Moscow in a Kremlin meeting with his Russian counterpart, the United Arab Emirates president expressed eagerness to expand cooperation and strengthen the shared partnership. Emphasizing future goals, the UAE president conveyed aspirations to significantly increase bilateral trade volume over the next 5 years. This dialogue signals both nations' commitment to deepening economic ties and building a more robust strategic alliance. U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll has visited Fort Stewart to honor 6 soldiers who bravely subdued an active shooter, injuring 5 soldiers. He praised their courage, calling their exemplary representatives of the nation. Driscoll promised a transparent investigation, pledging to share findings publicly and quickly implement safety improvements. That came as 3 wounded soldiers have been released from the hospital, with all expected to fully recover. The Army commended the swift action of soldiers in controlling the threat and providing immediate medical aid, underscoring their dedication and heroism.
They are everything that is good about this nation. They are the best among us in our country.
United Airlines has said it has resolved a technology issue that forced a temporary nationwide ground stop of its flights on Wednesday, August 6, disrupting operations at major airports including Newark, Denver, Houston, and Chicago. While United did not specify the nature of the technical problem, a source familiar with the situation said it involved an outage of the airline's weight calculation system, critical for safe takeoff and landing procedures. By 9:25 p.m. ET, data from FlightAware showed around 870 United flights, or 28%, had been delayed. The incident follows a similar disruption last month when Alaska Airlines grounded all flights due to a separate IT outage, also tied to aircraft weight and balance system. On the 80th anniversary of Hiroshima atomic bombing, the United Nations issued a stark warning against treating nuclear weapons as tools of coercion. Deputy UN spokesperson Farhan Haq delivered a message on behalf of Secretary General Antonio Guterres, recalling the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and honoring the survivors, or hibakusha, whose voices remain a powerful call for peace. Haq highlighted rising risks of nuclear conflict, eroding trust and growing geopolitical divisions, but noted signs of hope.
Yet, the Secretary General added there's some
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced Apple will invest $600 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years, $100 billion more than previously planned. Trump said the move will create over 20,000 new jobs and expand Apple's U.S. manufacturing footprint, including a new server plant in Houston, data centers across several states, and a manufacturing academy in Detroit. Apple CEO Tim Cook noted many components are already made in the U.S., but final assembly will remain overseas for a while.
And they're coming home. Companies like Apple, they're coming home.
Oil prices edged about 1% on Wednesday after falling to a 5-week low in the prior session, after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed higher tariffs on India for buying Russian crude and a larger than expected U.S. crude shortage drove last week. Brent crude futures rose 80 cents or 1.2% to $68.44 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose 80 cents or 1.2% to $65.96. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. The Egyptian president reaffirms Egypt's unwavering support for Sudan's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. Netanyahu says Israel intends to fully control Gaza but does not want to govern or keep it. An Israeli airstrikes under Syrian southern Lebanon kills 1 Syrian, injures 2. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Many thanks for watching and good night.